Hello, Diecast fans. Welcome back for another little production here. And what have we pulled out of the garage today? Well, we got us some Kenner Fast Ones. Now, this is one of those diecast cars that you may have actually forgotten about. I didn't know that I had actually until I just came across them, about a year ago. And I said to myself, oh yeah, I remember those. All right, so let's get a little background on these guys. So, Kenner, that name of the manufacturer of these vehicles, that should be familiar to you, especially as a Gen X kid, because that's who manufactured all the Star Wars toys, the Knight Rider talking kit car they had come out back in '83, and they also were responsible for the MASK, M-A-S-K, Mobile Armored Strike Command toys that came out in the middle '80s. So this is one of the diecast cars that they did. I think actually maybe even the only diecast cars that they did. But anyways, this was what their claim to fame was. These cars had license plates on them from all 50 states, and every license plate was different. They took the time to basically be their own little DMV at the manufacturer there, and every single Fast Ones car by Kenner had a completely different license plate number from the next, even though it may have been from the same state and even though it may have been the same model. Now, these 5 examples I have here, you'll notice that there's not really a big variety in the type of cars. 2 reasons for that. One is they really didn't make a big variety of cars in these Fast One series, and these are the best looking ones. The other ones they had, frankly, I thought were ugly and not well represented. Okay, that's why I don't have them. So the Trans Am is called Blazing Bandit and the Corvette is called Jet Vet. That's the names that they gave them. And they came in 2 different variations. Now you may be wondering, well, how come we have 2 black ones? Well, there's a reason why. You'll notice this one's got a chrome bumper, chrome side pipes, and therefore a chrome chassis. This one has a black bumper, black chassis. That's the difference. I think that's the only one that had a variation like that. The other cars did not have that from what I saw, from what I researched on eBay when I was trying to find these, and let me tell you, they are hard to find. Okay? Now, one of the things I noticed about toy makers in the early 80s, I think what they were trying to do is give kids a feeling of real vehicle ownership, and that's why you saw toys like Kidco's Burn and Key cars. They came with a key. You had Kidco's lockups, which I'm going to feature in a future video for you guys. They came with an actual metal key, and sometimes in later on series they had a keychain. And then with Fast Ones, when you got them, they came in a blister pack, and the back of the blister pack actually doubled as like a little vehicle registration. So when you would buy your Fast Ones vehicle, you'd write in, your year, what color it was, and your license plate number, and also where the state was. So in this case, the one that's on the turntable is from Missouri. There's the license plate number, and that's the date it was purchased on. That's when I got it. This car was built over 40 years ago and just now got bought. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. That Black Bandit you see on the turntable, that was the only one that came in its complete blister pack. These other 4 cars, they came in a blister pack, but this part of the card had been cut off. It wasn't available, so I wasn't able to fill out a registration form for the other cars I have. So that one on the turntable is the only one that has its blister pack intact, where I was able to cut the card off and actually fill it out. I suspect the reason why that was done for these other 4 cars is because they were probably looking for this right here, UPC code, and they were probably trying to get like some kind of a giveaway or something like that. But the cars were a fairly decent effort. They had these very fast rolling wheels on them. They did nice paint. The details were pretty good. 81 Trans Am, was a turbo model, so it's got that offset hood scoop there. And then, of course, in order to make the license plate legible, they had to put this oversized bumper on the back. And that's the case with all the Fast Ones cars. I don't know how well you can see the plate, but it says on there Missouri with the number. And it's very simple chassis there. Not a whole lot of detail. They were very fast rolling, I know that. And I remember when these were new, serious adult collectors didn't really gravitate towards them. And you can understand the reason why. The realism is somewhat compromised because of the large rear bumper, and plus also they just didn't have a whole lot of great detail to begin with anyways. I mean, to be honest with you, a mainline Hot Wheels or Matchbox had vastly better detailing than these did. It was just, the thing with the license plates was just a gimmick, a way to give, like I said, kids kind of like a real vehicle ownership experience. And it was successful for a little while. These eventually faded out pretty quick. I don't remember them being around very long, just very briefly in the early 80s, and it seemed like as quick as they came, as quick as they were gone. I remember my brother and I used to buy our Fast Ones cars at Target. They had actually quite a large section of the toy area devoted to these, and as quick as they appeared, they disappeared just as quick. It was interesting. But yeah, him and I really only collected, honestly, the ones you see here, the Trans Ams and the Corvette. They were the only two models in the lineup that looked like real cars. The rest of them just didn't look right. I think this one has Oklahoma plate on it. Yep. And then the white one is pretty sharp. I think that's also an Oklahoma plate. So here's the thing about this with these large rear bumpers. The reason they necessitated that is you have to take a look at what they were trying to do. They were taking a license plate that was actually intended for a 124 scale car, and they were figuring out, how can we put this on a 164 scale car? Because you have to understand, back in the early 80s, they didn't have technology such as nano printing. And if you had even had the imagination to say the words nano printing in 1981, somebody would have thought you were probably talking about some kind of science fiction term. So they just really didn't have the technology to make printing small and legible back then. So this is what they had to contend with. So that's why these Fast Ones cars have the large, oversized rear bumpers that the license plate fixes in there. And that really is just about what you would, that size license plate is about what you'd expect to see on, a 124 scale car. Yeah, that plate did say Oklahoma. So I have two Oklahoma Trans Ams here. I remember back in the day, my brother and I had two Colorado Trans Ams, and one of our Corvettes was from Pennsylvania, which were states that we had actually lived in. All right? So there's the Jet Vet in cream. About the same level of detail. I will give them this. They had nice graphics and they had nice paint, and they were fairly high quality cars. They weren't badly built. You could take them out of the package and they wouldn't fall apart in your hands the way a yacht mink sometimes would. They were, like I said, they were kind of gimmicky, and when they came out with the second series, they didn't really make the time to make new castings, a lot of new castings. They just kind of recycled the old ones. I think this one has an Alabama plate on it. This one I had to actually re-glue. It was falling off. So you could imagine, after 4 decades, that adhesive doesn't stick too good. But these are just one of those kind of interesting period pieces. Like I said, serious adult collectors really didn't care for them that much. Although now that they've become a true collector's item because they're so rare, yeah, there are some adults collecting these just for the, nostalgia factor. That's one of the reasons why I'm collecting them. You would never, I wouldn't definitely put these on any one of my main displays over there, because to me, there's just too much realism is sacrificed for the sake of getting that license plates on there. But you know what? It was a pretty decent effort. And in the early 80s, us kids, we thought it was just so cool. We're like, wow, neat. I get to have a car with my own registration and my own license plate. And it's just like mom and dad's real car with their registration. It's so cool. That's how us Gen X kids were thinking about it. But, like anything, it faded pretty fast because, these cars never had any opening features. I think they made all of maybe one racetrack for these cars, and that's about it. This one has a Utah plate on it. And it's like I said, it's a shame I don't have the registration for 4 of the 5 I have. But, it is what it is. You're buying this stuff 4.5 decades later down the road. Things are not always going to be there, But just the fact that I got them in mint condition was a plus. We'll say that and everything. So anyways, that's Kenner Fast Ones for you. Interesting period piece. And I got some other little interesting period pieces I'll show you as well. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you check out the posts and other little things I got coming up on the channel here. In the meantime, you guys enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.